on YouTube Live as well. I just realized I didn't do that. So if you have any problems with Facebook, you can go to, hey, Sean, welcome. So if you have any problems, Sean, with Facebook, I'm on YouTube again. I forgot to set that up, so you can go in and go into YouTube as well. Yeah, we're just waiting for the guests to come in. So I'm going to try to, maybe that link I sent them didn't work. So give me a moment. I'll give them a message. Yeah, it looks like the same that I sent. Here we go. I got another one sent off. Oh, there he is. Hey, Joseph. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now.
All right. I wasn't sure there was sound. I was like going, what's going on? It's
Yeah, for a second I didn't, and then just now you came through.
Oh, okay. All right. So you also have another book out.
Yeah, we got two in the works. Well, one has a release date of October 13th through Image Comics, and then the one through Scout Comics, we're still waiting to finalize that date, but it's looking around October too.
Okay. Yeah, bring it on the 1st. That's my birthday. It'd be a nice little gift, you know.
Are you into sci-fi much?
Yeah, I'm quite a bit into sci-fi.
Okay.
Actually, I don't like the term sci-fi.
That's what I heard. Some people don't like the term sci-fi.
Yeah, there was a guy, Ackerman. He hated the word sci-fi. It sounded like a really cheap name or something. I forget what he said. How he didn't like it. It was just he didn't like the term. He called it science fiction.
Yeah, that's right. I heard people that are hardcore science fiction fans, they don't like sci-fi.
Yeah.
And then you got the people that are insensitive and they just call whatever they want. Do you read a lot of Top Cow books at all?
Well, Top Cow is now with DC, isn't it?
Image still.
Oh, it's still with Image? I thought it was with DC. Wildstorm is over with DC.
Right. So Top Cow, I think that was Silvestri's arm of Image.
Yeah.
They were always heavy science fiction. You know, they had Witchblade, Darkness, and then when Matt Hawkins took over, they started doing a lot of like galactic type, you know, space exploration, like scientific, like genome editing, DNA splicing kind of stuff running through a lot of their books, because Matt has a heavy like scholastic background in science. I think that's he either graduated or did like some postgraduate work in some kind of scientific fields. So Stairway, the book that's coming out with Image, it's an anthology scheduled to be released October 13th. It has heavy ties in with science fiction. I think they said dealing with like some paradox, some alternate history, time travel, and stuff like that. So
cool.
Worked with a lot of up and coming writers, and then I guess depending on how they're like different 4 to 10-page stories that are throughout this. It's called the Stairway Anthology. Depending on if they get any kind of response from fans, if there's a specific story that might get greenlit for a full, you know, miniseries with Image / Top Cow. So.
Oh, cool.
So tell them that you love the KILLSHOT story.
Yeah, I saw that in the article. I was just before I went live. It was a Bleeding Cool link that you had on your profile page.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at it right now.
Yeah, in there it describes kind of what. So there was a series called Stairway. It got released in 2018. Matt wrote it, and artist by the name of Raphael drew it. But it had to do with discovering some secret elements hidden away in your DNA, and then that being some kind of code or to find a stairway to heaven. So they call it Stairway, and then that kind of spawned this anthology. So we got writers from all over the globe. I think Simon's over in the UK, and then we got a couple guys out in California, Tennessee maybe, and then Ohio, of course. I'm sure I'm missing a couple.
Right.
But I got to work with Attilio. He is the artist, or was the artist on the new Cyberforce. Do you remember Cyberforce back from the 90s?
Yeah, I remember. I think I've got some those copies. I think I caught most of the big guys when they came out. Like I got Todd McFarlane stuff. I got Jim Lee stuff. I got Rob Liefeld's Young Blood.
Yep.
I didn't buy too many. I think I bought maybe first issues or something like that. You know how it is. You're a spectator. You go, oh, maybe they may be worth them, So maybe I'll buy about 5 or 10 of them,
Or 100.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, you did with Captain Canuck, right? Didn't you snatch up like?
No, I got about 10 of those.
Okay.
I think about 10 or 20 of them.
There was a guy in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Howard the Duck?
Yep.
When it first came out in the 70s?
I never read it when it came out in the 70s, but I heard about him,
There was a notorious guy in the Ohio area. He went to all the comic shops and bought up all their copies of Howard the Duck #1.
Wow.
Because he was spectating that was going to be the next, big, I don't know, X-Men #1 or something. And I guess everyone hated him for it because they couldn't get copies of Howard the Duck #1. This guy was sitting on hundreds or thousands of the book or whatever. I wonder if he still has them. I don't know who he is. But he's a legend in the comic book collecting industry.
I never heard that. Wow.
I bet you if we Google him, we can find out who it is.
Yeah, I suppose we could. Let's see. I'm going right to it now.
Howard the Duck, Ohio speculator or something. I don't know. So now, since we've been in lockdown or whatever from COVID, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but like all of the Walmarts and Targets have all sold out of their like new basketball cards and baseball cards and stuff.
Oh yeah?
That's the new thing that everyone's speculating on right now, is not Captain Canuck or Howard the Duck, it's basketball cards. I'm gonna see if I can beat you to it.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find it. I spelled something wrong here, and it's not.
He might only be a legend in like the Ohio era. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
But I know he was infamous.
Yeah. I see a lot of Howard the Duck stuff here, but I don't see anything here. The Howard Zinc Corp. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Concession record proceedings and debates. Oh, here's we have hand several hundred copies. No, that was 1843. That's not the 70s.
I think 77 was when they released #1.
Yeah. Then they did a book called Destroyer Duck to help them fight Marvel. I remember.
I never read that book, but I remember seeing it.
Yeah. It was supposed to. I think it was supposed to help the creators of Howard Duck to get the rights back or something. I think Jack Kirby or something worked on it. Did you find it?
I remember it was like it was a heavily armed duck. Kind of looked like a cyborg.
Yeah, with a machine gun. They they had to change it or something because I think Disney came after him or somebody because he looked too much like Donald Duck or.
Yeah, I think he did have a really heavy Donald Duck vibe or something.
That might have been with Howard the Duck. Guess why? That's why they had to put pants on him or something.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You know, on Kickstarter, did you see they're running a Star Wars fan comic right now?
No.
It's like using Star Wars characters and everything. And someone on Facebook had posted, "Oh, wait till Lucas or Disney gets a hold of this. They're gonna send their lawyers after him." And everyone was like, "Come on, can't you there's got to be some kind of respect for intellectual property and stuff. You just can't take whatever you want and just make your own comic book from other people's characters."
Well, there was some people making fan movies of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I think CBS or something came after him and had him stop.
Yep.
But they were pretty good Star Trek too. They were better than what they were putting out,
Yeah. They should have just hired those guys instead of suing them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's kind of what the angle they're taking. That they know they're going to get shut down, but maybe they'll get a contract out of it or something.
Yeah.
Because if you go on Kickstarter, there's two. I guess there's a Disney Princess one, who's done by another group of guys, but then the Star Wars fan comic is in no way authorized by Disney or Lucasfilms, but the quality is really good. So these guys have worked on other comics, so maybe they're hoping that they might get a cease and desist letter, but at the same time they might get a green light to do some alternative universe Star Wars comic books.
Yeah.
You pulling it up?
I'm still looking up. I'm looking for something else here. You got me.
The Howard the Duck speculator.
Yeah.
Next time I'm by one of my local comic shops, I'll have to ask them.
Yeah. Okay. Because I never heard of
that.
Up.
The stuff I'm seeing is people were speculating on 200 issues of Dazzler #1.
Yeah. I got a few copies of that too. That actually wasn't a bad book. Dazzler.
I picked it up like way after it had been out.
Yeah. They were hoping that disco would last forever. And what's the name of this character in you ever watched The Mystery Men?
The movie, or was there a TV show?
No, the movie. There's only a movie with Ben Stiller and a few other famous actors, and there was a Disco Pete or something, and he Frankenstein comes in and he goes, he said, "They say that the disco is dead, but it's not." He said, "Disco is not dead." I forget what the name of the actor, but he's been in a lot of big movies too. He's been in Ocean 11 or something, one of the new Ocean 11 movies. Let's see. I think it's Disco Pete is his name.
You got Hank Azaria, Janine Garofalo, William Macy, Kel Mitchell, Paul Rubens, Wes Studi.
Ooh, what's that?
I think I was getting a call.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something with my computer was going to explode.
Oh,
no. Disco Boys, Tony P. and Tony C. Yeah, and they were the Disco Boys. He had a gang of them.
It's been such a long time since I've seen that movie. I should probably go watch it again.
Oh, I watched it like a couple weeks ago.
Was it streaming on, or was it on TV or something?
No, I got it on DVD.
Okay.
I loved that movie so much when I seen it. It was funny. It was good. It was like, I'm like going, how come it didn't make the money?
Yeah.
You know?
It just geek culture wasn't accepted like it is today, I think.
Yeah. here's a couple of dialogue. Tony P says, well, what do we have here? Tony C, looks like there's supposed to be some jive superheroes. Tony P, well, they're going to get real sorry that they came out to Casanova's place. Pulls and cocks his pistol. Shoveler, Raja, and Furious starts laughing. Tony P, what's so funny? Mr. Furious, guns? Is that your power? You have guns? The Blue Raja, pardon me, the impuns chum, but what the devil does a pistol have to do with disco? I'm trying to do his voice, you know. There's no theme here at all. Furious, weak. Raja, at best. Trade high five with Furious. Shoveler pointing to a guy swinging a pipe. Look at this guy. Who are you? The disco plumber? Furious. See, if you're going to use chain, at least make it a gold chain. See? That's just on the top of my head. Mocking to Tony C. Yo, what's up, Tiger Lily? Tony C. The top of your head, hey? And then he hits him with the pipe. But it's just this whole movie is hilarious. It's just like
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it now.
Yeah.
So for the Misadventures, the book we have coming out with Scout, I found myself going back and doing a lot of research from like cartoons I loved or used to watch, books. Like I went and picked up the Omnibus of Bone.
Ooh, nice.
Can you see how thick this is?
Yes. This is almost as big as Dave Sims' phone books.
Yeah. I mean, this thing is like, it's like a phone book. It's like 1,400 pages. And it's like, it took me like 3 weeks to read it or something. But so that made me think like, what gets people like in the nostalgic mood to like go back, like for you, for instance, to go back and watch Mystery Men? Is there something that like you see or hear that reminds you of like a movie or a book or something that makes you want to go back, or a cartoon or something, go back and watch it again?
Well, it's like I find a mixture of like stuff that makes you laugh. You can watch. I find a lot of these movies for myself. Other people don't, but you can go back and still laugh at the same jokes.
Yeah.
It has a certain feeling. The music, the way they shot it.
So it's that familiarity.
Yeah, like a lot of people watch Back to the Future. And Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because I think on last chat, I think maybe I told you that I seen it 20 times in the theater.
Yeah.
That doesn't count about VCRs, DVDs, illegal.
So you've got it memorized by heart.
Yep. Well, I'll sit there and watch the movie, and I'll be saying the dialogue with all the characters.
Quote all the lines.
Yeah. It's only when I'm watching it.
One of my favorite stories was one of my best friends in high school. We were taking like a bus for a football game or something, and they made the mistake of putting on the movie Dumb and Dumber.
Mm-hmm.
And he had watched this movie up to that point probably about 40 times. So he had all the dialogue memorized, but he wouldn't repeat it when the characters were saying it. He would repeat it like a second earlier. So it would annoy the crap out of anybody else that was watching the movie with him. So he did this we had like a 2-hour drive. He did it through the entire movie. He wouldn't stop, and it drove me crazy. I still love the movie, but I didn't like the that viewing of the movie so much. Can you do that with Mystery Men?
It's at certain points. It's a certain like I can do that when I watch the movie, but I don't watch it all the time. When I feel in the mood, I need a little bit of a laugh. Like I said, I watched it like about 2 weeks ago. And,
so what are your go-to movies to put you in a certain mood? Are they mostly comedies like Mystery Men and?
Well, it would be Ninja Turtles. I've jumped into Ninja Turtles. What haven't I watched lately? I just finished off watching The Karate Kid. I bought it on Blu-ray. Never watched it for a while. But yeah, if I'm in a creative slump or something, I'll throw in Star Wars, or I'll throw in whatever I feel I just feel in the mood for. Lately, I haven't been watching too much because my big 50-inch TV ended up dying
Broke.
on me.
Oh no.
Yeah, I bought the TV from a neighbor about 10, it was about 10, 15 years ago maybe. And the picture tube just shrunk like
Oh
that.
no. What
So
kind
I
of
don't
TV
know.
was it?
It's a 50-inch projection TV tube. This
Okay.
thing's a big,
One of those
heavy monster.
almost as big as my phone book.
Bigger. It's
I
bigger than
remember
this
those
one.
things. Those
It's
things
bigger
like
than that. Than that.
Is that holding your desk up?
Which?
Is that tube TV holding your desk up?
No.
Oh, it's just
My desk is over here.
oh, it's just a cubby hole for it then?
No, that TV works.
What's it
TV,
in? Just like a hole in the
No, it's
Oh, it's just the TV. It's got a wood grain. It's got a wood grain cabinet or something on it.
Yeah, it's an old tube TV.
That's awesome.
That was from 1978 or 79.
I remember being over at one of my relatives' houses, and they had one of those with the clicker. It had like 4 different buttons on the clicker, and it was like you have one?
This is to turn it on.
This was the old school one. There's only 4 buttons. There was 3 like channel up, channel down buttons, and then there was like an orange button for power.
Yeah.
Maybe only 3 buttons. And
this is only for this is only used for like if you got cable TV and stuff.
That looks like a calculator.
You wouldn't have to get up, and you just change the channels that way, and you turn it off. Let's see if we can. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I don't have anything in it. Like it's not hooked up to cable or anything. It's just hooked up to the VCR and DVD player.
Let me see if I can show you this clicker real quick. Do you know how to switch the?
What do you want to share a screen?
Yeah, I want to flip the thing around so it's not on me. I wanted to show you my computer screen.
What are you using, a phone?
Yeah.
There should be something on your menu in the phone that would flip that. It wouldn't be anything here in the StreamYard.
Okay, I'm gonna just have to point it.
And turn it around.
You see it?
Okay. Yep.
It's got 1 orange button and then 3 other buttons, and one's for channel up, one's for channel down, and one's for volume, mute, and power.
When I was a kid, we didn't have any of that. I was the one that went up to change the channels. And I lived in a province. I was telling you about Newfoundland. That's where the TV came from. It traveled all the way up from Newfoundland to Ontario.
To pick it up?
Well,
to go buy one?
Well, no, my parents bought one in Newfoundland when we were living down there, and that's where that wooden TV came from. So I've had that since 79, that TV. Yeah, we didn't have a box for it. You'd have to get up and change the channels. The buttons would be on the TV, and you get up and press. But the province we lived in the 70s or late 60s, because my father had to move out of the province for a while, for about 3 or 4 years. We had black and white TV, and we could only get 2 channels. CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and there was one called what was it called? Because they went through a different name changes. They used to be called NBC, but because they start getting cable coming in Newfoundland, there was an NBC in the States because it was called Newfoundland Broadcasting Corporation.
Oh, wow.
So they had to change it to NTV. But that was the only channels we could get. And NTV was kind of iffy on certain days. So it was either we watched the CBC, which was a lot of British stuff from the BBC that we were getting. So that's how I grew up on. I grew up on a TV show. It was somebody on Facebook told me a while back what the name of the show was, but I can't remember what it is now. And it was about these two police officers, and one got shoved into a freezer, and he died.
Oh,
and
no.
He came back as a ghost, and only his partner could see him. And the only way that ghost can walk through walls is to walk through backwards. He couldn't go through the wall going face on.
Huh.
He had to turn around and back into it to walk through. I'm like, that is a weird concept, you know?
Huh.
And but it was an interesting show. I think I found a copy somewhere. I got it on one of my hard drives. So I haven't been able to watch it fully again. But it was an interesting concept. I don't know how many years it went on. Probably in the BBC, you know, because it's a BBC show, it probably went on for several years, you know, kind of like Doctor Who, you know.
Yeah. So, speaking of old school movies, there's this movie I watched the last time I saw it was like in the 80s, and it was. Do you remember Betamax? It's like the cassette that was like before VHS.
Yeah.
They were like really heavy, and it was like, I don't know, Sony or Panasonic's version of the VCR or VHS tape.
Yeah.
It was like a barbarian movie with a princess that walked around. I think she had blonde hair and like a white cloak. And I don't know if it was like a magical cloak or an invisibility cloak or something, but that's all I remember from the movie. I've been trying to track it down for like 30 years. And I can't think of the title or whatever. Someone was like Beastmaster and something else, but I can't. I guess it was an obscure movie. I don't know. Maybe it was from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
All I know is we had the Betamax tape of this, and I watched it a couple times because I was fascinated with the characters, and I can't remember the name of it to like find it again and rewatch it.
Wow, I can't. And you've Googled everything what you could remember to see if you could find.
The closest thing that I could find was Beastmaster.
It doesn't sound like Beastmaster. Trying to think who was that played it. It was a guy who played in V. That played in Beastmaster, I believe. You ever seen the TV series V? It was about a bunch of aliens who came to Earth, and they were
part of an episode. I think part of an episode. I know what you're talking about, though.
You know, there's a bunch of aliens that come down, and they turn out to be lizard people. They have masks on that look like us, and so the guy who is the main lead reporter, I don't think he's a reporter. I think he's just a cameraman, and he was the guy that was in Beastmaster.
Okay.
I just can't think of his name. Haven't seen him for a while. But V was a pretty popular movie, TV series back in the 70s, 80s.
Is that what the DC comic book was based off of?
V for Vendetta?
No, there's another one that was just called V.
V. I don't remember that one.
And I thought it was some kind of science fiction.
Let me see.
What's the warrior and the sorceress?
V comic book. Give me a moment here. City of Edge, written by Carrie Bates. art by Carmine Infantino. I've always had a hard time saying his name. It was 1985, that comic book, but that was based on the TV series.
Was it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Because I'm really familiar with V for Vendetta, obviously, Alan Moore.
Yeah.
But a couple of my bins of comics had this V comic, and I was like, wait, that's not V for Vendetta.
Yeah. Yeah, that was V for the Visitors, or I think that's what V stood for, was Visitors.
That makes sense.
Yeah, somebody just sprayed it, like they had it that somebody sprayed it on top of the picture of, because they were trying to make humanity like them, and said that they're friends. Yeah, because it says here the visitors are our friends, and then somebody spray painted a V in front of the poster. I guess it was a symbol saying that, we don't like you, we're gonna, or it could be mean victory too, over you guys, Mark Singer, I think his name is. We did a couple miniseries. Let me see here. 1983. Mark Singer was Mike Dullivan, who he was a reporter, a cameraman. You said you think it might be Beastmaster, but I don't remember a Cloak of Invisibility in that one.
How about the Warrior and the Sorceress? I'm like looking at a couple of the images, and it doesn't look quite like her.
Okay.
She had it was like a shiny white robe or cloak or something. And I thought she had blonde hair, but it's been a while, so.
Yeah, I know. Then your memory kind of gets faded a bit.
Now, if I see it again, then I'll never forget.
Yeah. What was it called again? The Warrior?
The Warrior and the Princess?
Princess, okay. I got one here that says the Sorcerer. Warrior and the Sorceress.
Yeah, that one, but
let's see. Princess and the Warrior. Never heard of that one.
It was definitely a low budget movie because a local video store was clearancing out all of their Betamax tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And we got 200 of them. So I went through and watched all these B rated or B flicks.
Wow.
I'm sure Barbarella was in there.
Oh yeah, that's a classic. Yeah, this one says it was released in 2001. It was Canadian, and it says awards, German film award for best feature film.
Huh.
Well, this one says The Princess and the Warrior. It's not
okay. The Warrior and the Sorceress.
Yeah. It says The Princess and the Warrior. It's a German drama film written and directed by Tom Twicker. This one that I've never heard of.
So listen to this log line for The Warrior and the Sorceress.
Uh-huh.
You ready? You ready for this log line?
Sure.
The mighty warrior Cain crosses the barren wastelands of the planet Ura, where two arch enemies, Zeg and the evil degenerate Balkaz, fight incessantly for control of the village's only well.
Okay.
What movie does that sound like? Sounds like Mosquito Coast.
Does it? Okay. I've never heard of that one either.
In the picture, the movie art, she kind of looks like the sorceress, but when you pull up the movie shots, it doesn't look like her.
Yeah, well, looking at the poster here, it looks. There's a guy standing there with a sword, and she's laying at his feet.
Yep.
and some's coming from her fingers or some.
Yep.
It's a really small picture of it, so. Yeah, David Carradine was in this one. And there's one picture down here. Look, oh, this is Deathstalker 2 or something. They got one that looks like do you ever seen a fantasy artist, Boris?
Oh yeah,
He's done all
Vallejo.
these. Pardon?
How do you say his last name?
That's why I said Boris.
It's like Vallejo or something.
Yeah, but he does all these fantasy covers and stuff. He does all these muscular. But it's usually him and his wife or something that poses. He'll take pictures, and then he'll do the paintings from that.
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of comic book artists, like Louis Small Jr., he used to work on Vampirella, and Michael Calandra, he used to work for Heavy Metal, do some covers and stuff for them. Those guys use a lot of live models for their shots, so they would actually hire a model, especially if it was, like a female or something like that, and then they do a lot of like almost lifelike, these kind of like fantastical images of females and stuff, and they would use live models for it. But I'm sitting there like, man, that's got to be expensive, because hiring a model to sit there for a day or 2 days while you interpret it as an artist, it's got to be expensive. So imagine getting a commission from an artist, but then part of their expense is hiring a live model that's going to sit there for the commission. It's not going to be cheap.
Yeah. Well, look at Da Vinci. He did the Mona Lisa. I'm sure that was I think I heard that was a model or something. But they didn't have camera back then. So, nowadays you just go up, or even back in the 70s and stuff, or whenever cameras came out, somebody could take a picture of it and then use it as a reference. Just get it started and then take a picture, and then they can leave, because you can't get them back in that same position again,
Yeah. I can't believe it. We were just watching some like 1800s like Emma movie that just got released recently. And they used to sit there and do portraitures of all like the royalty or whatever, and that's how they would have their pictures taken. I can't. We take everything for granted these days, that you can just snap a selfie on your camera on your cell phone and then have hundreds of pictures of yourself, where before, if you wanted a picture of yourself that might look like you, might not look like you had to sometimes pose for days on end.
Yeah, well, you had to, the old film days, because I back in the 80s, I bought a Canon AE1 program, and it was the first programmable camera, so it could set up your aperture for you, your shutter, but you take the film in, and that would take, you could go for the 1 hour, which would come out crappy anyway, the colors and stuff. Or you could send it into a good photo processor, and you get it back in about a week. And then you have all these negatives and pictures to look through and stuff like that. And you go, I don't remember taking that one. Did I take that? How did I take that one? And because you've forgotten about it by that time. Now you just take a picture and you can look at it within whatever time you get back,
Can you imagine the stories of people that used to work in film developing in the 80s and 90s and what kind of pictures they had to develop?
Well, look at Playboy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Now, there was a story I heard about one of the photographers. He would get a Polaroid camera and take pictures so he could get the lighting and stuff right. So he would look at the Polaroid before he'd snap with the camera.
Wow.
To make sure the lighting and everything, the setup and everything was, and those things were pretty cheap back then. They were like, you get a pack of 10, I think, for $10 for a roll of Polaroid. Now they got them back, and they're like $36 Canadian.
The retro editions.
Yeah, I'm like $30 for like what, 8? You're not giving me 10? I got a big stack of them now, because I, bought a few packs here and there, and I'm going, got to get the old camera going, because I got three Polaroids. Let me show you my my collection of cameras. Can you see that? Can you see that shelf up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 Polaroids up there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and they all work. Well, except one of them. Had one back in the 70s, and it comes with a film that you pull out. It'd have a piece of paper on it. You'd have to wait for a certain amount of time for it to develop, and then you tore it off. And that was fun, and then you see it there and you go, wow, this is cool. And then when they start bringing out the later ones, they pop out and you watch it develop in front of your eyes. Yeah,
I remember those.
Yeah, and that was back in the 80s they came out. And but yeah, I still got 2 of them. And so I just bought it. I said, well, if they got in film and it works for it, you might as well use it, instead of having it sitting in the box,
Yeah. I remember, was it back in like 94, 95 when the first digital cameras came out?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those? It was like a big, like thick Kodak, and it was like, thick like that, and it was also like thick like that. And they had a base. You had to put it on the base, and then the base would transfer the pictures to your computer. If you pushed a button, and then they would, the files would pop up on your computer, and then you could see them. That was a big thing. Those were like $300, $400, I think, when they first came out.
Wow.
And then today we have a high resolution cameras on your cell phones.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know how res this one is. I don't know if you can see that. It's a BlackBerry.
Okay. Oh, you still have a BlackBerry?
Yeah, it's a Q5.
Okay.
Well, it's Canadian. It where they made this is just a half an hour drive from my house.
Research in Motion?
Yeah, in Waterloo.
Okay.
And, so the first BlackBerry I got was a Curve. I still have it. I'm using it as a backup because I'm having problems with this one. The software. No. Yeah, well, I used to pocket dial people on me. And there's a little button on the top up here that locks it. And when it's in your pocket and you bend over to pick up something, it unlocks it. And it was pocket dialing people. And people were going, did you call me? And I go, no. And then I realized it was unlocking. So a guy gave me some kind of a color code to lock it. And something happened. It tried to unlock itself again. And it told me I tried the password too many times. It's going to do factory reset. And I had to let it go because I didn't know what to get it out of it,
Oh, no.
So I lost everything. And then I had to reinstall the operating system and all that. And it was a different operating system than when I got the phone. So it was much bigger. So I couldn't put on the games I had. I couldn't have my ringtones on there anymore. And the phone doesn't work as well anymore because the software is not. And somebody told me recently I have to do it again. I really can't do that. I do have a lot of the information on my other phone, my Curve, so I could probably back it up through that way. I can't even back this phone up. I can't even hook it up to the computer. It won't connect anymore. So
if BlackBerry launched phones again, would you buy a BlackBerry phone?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
If it was from BlackBerry, but they did some Android phones, but they had a contract with somebody else. So the phone, I find this phone the most secure phone out there.
That's their thing, right? They always had security over bells and whistles.
Yeah, you couldn't do like Apple. Like remember that incident with one of the actresses? Somebody broke into her. I don't think it broke into her phone, but got into her cloud account or something through Apple, and was able to get her pictures because she took a bunch of nude pictures of herself.
Oh,
I think it was
geez.
Scarlett. I think it was Scarlett Johansson. I wonder if they're around anywhere.
Which, speaking of which, I wonder if those Polaroid Playboy shots are around anywhere, because I'm sure those are collectible.
You're probably worth some, you know?
Especially if they're like, the collector market, if the rarer an item is that it's still popular enough, then usually the more valuable it is. So if there's only one each of all those Polaroids,
yeah,
I'm sure they're sought after.
They're unique. Any photos from Polaroid camera is unique because it's just one of a kind. Because you can never duplicate that same lighting, because the chemicals in them kind of act differently if you shot a few.
I've noticed that some have that washed out look, and then some are like richer in colors. And I guess it's how those chemicals reacted at that time when you took the photo.
Yeah,
that's interesting because today you can take a photo, manipulate it in Photoshop, and then you can print out 100 million copies if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
And then you could sign all of them. But yeah, with the Polaroid, you only have one. Each one was 100% unique.
Yeah. Well, even with the film, with negatives, you could print out a whole bunch of prints if you wanted to. It'd take a lot of time because you'd have to dip it in chemicals and put it on a larger and, do that for a whole run,
Which, how safe are those chemicals, by the way? Because I'm sure at the time they're like, oh yeah, completely safe. And then 20 years later, you find out like Roundup that it's bad for people.
Yeah, there's like silver iodine in it or something like that. And they said that this one country in Sweden, I think it's in Sweden somewhere, the lake has really cleaned up since they went digital.
Wow.
Because a lot of them were dumping it into the water system. But yeah, but it was. I took a black room developing, and it was interesting doing that. Trying to get the film out of the cartridge. Now all you have is a cable put to your camera, to your computer, turn it on, the software comes on, over and.
Yeah, or you just beam it with Wi-Fi or whatever.
Yeah, my camera. I'm not that far advanced yet with that camera.
So we're going to get you into the 21st century here. We're going to have to get you a upgraded fancy smancy.
I am upgraded. I got the old TV hooked up to like modern technology. I got a little box over here that takes RCA plugs and converts it into signal so I can send it to the TV.
Okay.
I don't have to use coax. Yeah.
That's one foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah. So we'll see. That's something that you can put in the stories in the science fiction stories.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody that modifies old technology, and new technology,
That's interesting.
Kind of like a MacGyver kind of thing,
Like MacGyver and Bruce Banner put together.
Tony Stark, you can say Tony Stark, right? So this, you said it's coming out in October, your book.
Yeah, there's an Amazon link. You might have it scrolling.
Yep, I do.
Their pre-release, I think orders are up now. It's 128 pages of science fiction goodness. A lot of up-and-coming writers, and then I think there's a couple like regular top cower image guys on there too. And then I'm pretty sure most of the artists are artists who have worked on image or top cow titles before. Like Attilio, he's worked on Cyberforce and a bunch of other, I think Postal and some other books. So you'll definitely recognize the art if you pick these up, if you read any image books or top cow books. But the writers, for the most part, will be unfamiliar. They're newer, up-and-coming writers.
So do you have any, like when you went with the image, do you have any restrictions with them? They give you any like guidelines or anything that you have to write and can't write?
Not so much. They're pretty good with this. It was Matt was kind of our point person, and then Henry, who's the editor over there at I think it's editor and marketing genius over there at Top Cow. Just coordinating with them, and then Brian, who's one of their writers, and then Ryan, I think another one of their editors. Just bouncing some rewrites and stuff off of them, and then until they approved it, and then they sent it off to the artists. So I think pretty much because their theme is science fiction stuff, I think that if you got it within there and it was an interesting premise, I think it was pretty much good to go. So yeah, our kill shot has to do with eliminating a historical target of significance and how it changes the course of history, and changes the present. So I won't spoil it, but it's pretty interesting, and if people pick it up and read it, I'd like to hear what they think.
Now, how many pages do you have?
Mine ended up being 6 pages. We were trying to go keep it brief over keeping it too long, because I guess the 128 page mark is pretty ideal for a graphic novel. And I want to say there's either going to be 8 or 12 stories in there, and there might be like some source book material or some pinups or something like that in the back.
Okay, nice. And then
I don't think they have preview pages. The image that they have up for the cover art on on Amazon, I think that's their working cover right now, and they might change it.
Okay. I know your character that's in the book is you got it set up that it will, if you do another series, you could still bring him back.
Yeah,
without giving any spoilers,
So I was just talking to my friend yesterday, and he said that he was reading something from a well-known short story writer. I think Orson Scott Card, the guy that did Ender's Game. And he said, if you get a short story published or something in an anthology, he said, you have to keep the ending the same. He said, you basically take that story and just expand it, and you have the same ending. He said, rather than using your short story as a prologue, and then the story picks up from the end of your short story, your anthology entry. He said that's the #1 mistake that writers make, apparently. So who knows? Maybe if it ends up getting picked up or enough people like it, it might be the same ending. Because originally, it was supposed to be something that was a complete story, and if interest was there, then it would kick off a full miniseries. So that's how I kind of wrote it. And you do have to write differently for if you're doing, just like a one and done anthology entry versus something that's going to have like multiple issues.
Right.
So we have a publisher that was looking at another project, and it was slated to be a 4-issue miniseries. And they're like, that's not really our format. We do anthologies on one-shots. Can you give us a one-shot? And so it's interesting thinking about your 4-issue miniseries. That's the only way you thought about it in the beginning, and then having to come up with a side story that I guess uses the main characters but ties back into the main story. I guess they're called Gaidens. Are you familiar with that term?
No, I'm not.
Gaiden. I think its word origin is from ancient Japan, and it means something like a side story. And so coming up with a side story that kind of tied the same characters. Like if you were to write a Gaiden for Star Wars, the first one, A New Hope, could you think of a side story that would tie into the main story that wouldn't like give away the ending, but would still like develop and introduce the characters to the reader?
Okay.
So I guess that's the best way to look at it.
All right. Huh.
So, but yeah, writing those different formats for like an anthology entry versus a full four issue miniseries. It's a whole different creative process, and I'm sure the writers that write science fiction or fantasy, when they got to do a short story versus a 350 page novel, I think their process is some things are going to overlap, but I'm sure it's a lot different. So when you plot your stories, do you normally plot them for like 4 issues or ongoing, or how do you do it?
I never seem to end when I write. It just goes on and on and on. Now, the book I wrote that it was going to be a Kickstarter that didn't get campaigned, I had to make some changes when I was doing the story because the artist didn't feel a book without the character in costume, a superhero, wouldn't sell because the character didn't get his costume into about the third act of the script. And he didn't think it was going to, people would flip through it, not see the hero and go be disappointed and put it back on the shelf. And so I had to rearrange it and took one of the third acts of when he becomes the hero to the beginning of the story. So it's kind of a rescue part, showing him rescuing somebody, and we got to learn how he got into that situation. But I thought, after thinking about it, I said, well, maybe that will work that way. I didn't really want to do it. I wanted to do it in a linear way, kind of introduce the character and show that he's just an ordinary human. And then he gets his powers and he learns his strengths and stuff like that and his weaknesses. And then we go from there, And then we have a little prelogue at the end. It's a prelogue. Anyway, it's a separate from the main story of the character, and showing the villains that are going to be coming up and stuff like that, and what their motives are.
So when you published the book, was it with the costume in the first issue?
Yeah, he had a costume in the first issue, but originally it wasn't shown to the third act of the story because it's like a graphic novel. I think it wrote about 68 pages or something like that, or 80 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I said, Marvin just didn't feel that the character needed to be at the end of the book, So
I wonder if that's an artist thing. One of my original collaborators, Dan, he worked with me on my first book ever, and he was like, "Where's the action?" He's like, "You got to put the action in the first scenes." It's like, because if the action isn't there, and all you do, a writer wants to, build up the world, right, and build up the characters and show everyone the, motivation and the ordinary world before things change. And maybe it was just him and your artist or the artist that you worked with. They want to see the action now because they don't want the that's the first thing a reader will see is when they pick up the book and flip through it, they see the art, and then the art draws them in, and then they stay for the story.
Yeah, well, they don't want they don't want to draw the boring parts. That's why.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, just people walking around talking. That's probably not too exciting to draw.
Yeah. You want some hero beating up, or the villain coming in and destroying them, and then the hero coming to save the day, and then there's a 3 or 4 page fighting thing. So that's more interesting to keep them awake.
It's true.
But
you have a good point.
You can't do all stories like that. Like one of the best stories I liked from the Marvel Age was Doctor Strange. He didn't get his powers right away. He showed them on the cover. I think probably some inside, the first page or something, like a pinup. And then they went into him being the doctor and him being a rude ass and him, wanting money, to do the surgery and stuff like that, being a total jerk. And then he had the accident, lost his ability to to do the surgery and that. And then he tried to find a way to fix his hands. And he went through, meeting up with the Ancient One, and then getting the lessons from the Ancient One, and then becoming, disciplined and not as a jerk. Have you ever read The Origin of Doctor Strange in the comic books by Steve Ditko?
I know which ones you're talking about, but I don't think that I ever went back and read those.
Yeah, because he doesn't appear in costume until almost the end. He has a fight with Mardo. Is that how you pronounce his name?
It's something like that.
And but that doesn't happen to the end, so there's no big fight scenes in it. It's not like a typical superhero book or anything, But it's it's a fun read to go through, But, what about I think Daredevil was the same thing too. Didn't show the
first issues.
Yeah, the one in the yellow, and the one that showed that Matt was really blind or colorblind, when he put that costume together. I think it was, what was it, the yellow and red?
Yeah. It was a mostly yellow suit, right, with a little bit of red, with the red DD.
I think it was like a vest or something, and it was like red, the vest with the D, and then the boots were red, and the gloves were red, but the arms and legs were yellow. Yeah, that's good for a blind man, Oh, we can see him. But yeah, I think his origins was the same way, They build it up, Showed him as
so I wonder if that's
kid.
just a period or era thing of how, writers thought about the process or superhero comics versus today, everyone, their attention spans are shorter. So it's almost like every new movie that I see, it always starts off with some kind of chase scene or, the ending action scene, and then it flashes back to the beginning of the story. So then you have to, as the viewer, you have to figure out what led to those events.
Yeah.
Most recently, I think I saw Birds of Prey, and I think it was like that. It showed a later sequence of something blowing up or whatever, and then you went all the way back to the beginning to find out how it got that bad. So I don't know if that's an audience thing. Like, now we have such short attention spans, everything's at our fingertips. So it has to be something that, sucks you in right away. Whereas maybe in the 60s or 70s, people that read in comics had a little bit more patience.
Yeah, or the writers, had a little bit more patience, Well, back then it was a new medium too. So, like when in the 60s, comic books were only around for maybe 20, 30 years. So there was still a new item, a new product that's out,
Mm-hmm.
or a form of storytelling.
When you write, this is a question I like to ask all people that are creators or writers and artists. When you write or you script, are you a pantser or are you an outliner?
I think I'm more of an outline.
An outliner?
Yeah.
I recently worked with an editor for my Misadventures series from Scout Comics, and he's going through it. He's telling me all the problems in the script, and he's like, "Joseph, let me ask you this." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you a pantser?" So I started laughing. I was like, "How'd you know?" And he's like, "A lot of these issues with like plot points and stuff, he's like, these wouldn't be here if you were outlining everything, and for every setup you have a payoff."
Mm-hmm.
So the benefit, I guess, of being a pantser is you kind of discover your characters as you write the story. So sometimes the school of thought is it's more authentic, original, or whatever. And then the argument for an outliner is you have all of the story beats down and you have all the plot points and the story makes more sense. But it was interesting to have his perspective to basically point me out as a pantser and recommend that I do at least a little bit of outlining next time so that I don't get so far down the road. I'm like, there's no purpose for this, this wandering around or whatever for these characters.
What's this here? Pantsers have the freedom to take their novel in any direction they want. They have the flexibility. They're not stuck following an outline, so they don't have like a character. They can simply kill him if they don't like the way the plot is going. They can change it. Cons, having no plan or very little plan makes it easier to get stuck. And they get stuck. They have their own. They have to come up with a way to dig themselves out of the writer's block, rather than following an outline that leads them to the right direction. So I'm more of a person that plots it. I'm more of a plotter because I like to plot these stories out. I'll have a long, big, epic story I want to tell, and I have when I'm
How
writing.
do you lay it out? Do you have a big board that you put up on your wall?
Nope. No, I've heard of people getting like notebooks and writing in notebooks.
Yep.
But I like doing it on the computer. I'll open up Word, Microsoft Word, and I'll sit there with a blank page. I'll start putting stuff down. I'll do a plot form, like the Marvel way, and then I'll start adding stuff into it, formatting the page so it looks like a script, like a movie script, and then I start dialogue and stuff like that, and then I start expanding from there. Then sometimes I'll add something else, and I go, wait a minute, this will probably work this way. But it's funny when somebody comes to me. Well, sometimes it does work out, but if I don't see any logic in it, there's no way you're going to get me to change the storyline. With the character, I went through many changes with the costume. So we finally came up with one design. Let me show it to you. I'll move the camera around. Okay, can you see that picture on my wall right there?
It's small, but yes. Yep.
Red and white. Well, we had people tell me, well, you can't have a character with a visor.
With a visor?
Why? Yeah. I thought the visor was cool because I came up with it that he could see it would be like Tony Stark's helmet. You could see readouts and stuff because the suit is like a computer, and it's created through using nanobots in his watch. So they come up and they change the structure of material and stuff, and so whatever he's wearing and the air and stuff, they change the molecular structure of whatever's around it and creates the costume. And it's an alien suit, kind of, because the nanobots are alien. And I said, the visor has to stay because it's an essential thing. You can't tell who's inside, for one. Then he's got all of his technical stuff that he can read, like Tony Stark does when he's in his armor. And I thought that would be so cool, just having him. He could see the temperature. He could see the body temperature of somebody and stuff like that. And, the thing could, open up and stuff like that. And then it just hides his face so nobody can tell who he is. And it also muffles his voice and changes his voice because he has an accent. And then you can go, you sound like somebody I know. But I don't know. The other people wanted to change it to I don't know, a simple mask or something. And I said, well, this is the character. It's written in there. So I'm kind of stuck on that way. I'm not. You
kept the visor, huh?
I wanted to keep the visor. And there was no way I was going to change the visor. Well, it used to be goggles that he wore. Kind of like, do you ever remember a character called Vigilante? DC did?
Yeah, I don't remember.
He's not the cowboy. He's more like the Punisher. He was kind of like the Punisher kind of thing. But he had a visor on his mask, like a ski visor. And that's what my character kind of looked like. And I said, nah, I I just want to go with a full faceplate over his mask. You know.
Huh.
I just thought it would be better. Yeah, especially if you're going into a fire and there's a lot of smoke. It'd be at least protecting him. You know.
Or if you're going out during COVID-19.
Yeah. Or you got cystic fibrosis.
Exactly.
See, you know, your whole face is covered. You can't get. There's no way of any contaminated getting in.
Hey, that's an interesting idea. We might have to come up with a helmet change of outfit for our character.
Yeah.
Like a version 2.
Yeah.
Like a 2099 version.
Yeah,
of Pathway.
Yeah. Yeah, it could work that way. Yeah. Yeah, sounds like an interesting idea.
Do you think they'll ever make 2099 movies?
To make what movies?
You know how Marvel did Spider-Man 2099,
Oh,
Punisher
those, yes.
2099?
Yeah.
It was like the future glimpse of the characters. Do you think they'll make a Spider-Man 2099, or do you think they'll make like Ultimate Spider-Man first?
They'll probably make the Ultimate Spider-Man first. Well, Sony already owns Spider-Man.
Right.
So Marvel can't really do that. You know, they Sony owns everything of the Spider-Verse. You know, so they can't use.
That's why they put out the Venom movie, right, with Tom Hardy.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be doing Morbius. Is that the name? You pronounce the name?
Jared Leto.
Yeah, they're doing that with him. Yeah.
I think he's much more suited for Morbius than he is for the Joker.
Yeah, I didn't like him in the Joker.
I didn't either, and I didn't want to say anything because it seems like any opinion that you make online is going to catch heat no matter what opinion it is. So I usually keep my opinions about movies and everything else to myself. But that was one that Sean said there's going to be a Spider-Man 2099 show.
Yeah, for Disney Plus.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think Jared Leto is much more suited for Morbius than Joker.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Did you watch the Joker with Phoenix?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I have it. I have a copy of it at home, but I just haven't had the time to sit through it because the bigger TV is like gone, and that's one where I like to sit and draw.
Yeah.
Because it's in my living room, and I'm like, I gotta get a TV repairman to look at it because I think it's just it's a bulb or something that's blown. Because I did some research on the TV. It's an RCA projection TV, and they said there's a bulb in it that only has so many uses, like 1,000, a couple 100,000 uses, and then it kind of dies. And I got to see if I can get somebody to look in and see if it is that, and then if we can get it replaced, and then I got the TV back again. But it was a good price to pay $300 for that TV.
Huh.
That TV must have cost at least $2,000 at the time when it came out.
As a kid, I was jealous of everybody that had those giant projection TVs because we had a little tube TV or something at the time. Must have been about, 28 inches. And then we'd go to our friend's house to watch like a wrestling match or something or play Nintendo on his giant projection TV, and it was a real treat.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got the Wii hooked up to it, and it's so fun playing the Wii on a 50-inch TV,
Yeah.
And I'm like going, do I have to go out and get a plasma TV now? I know it's going to be smaller, it's easier to move, but then it's just not going to look the same, I miss that TV, and I can't hook it up to the wooden one behind me. That one I used to play my Nintendos on when I first got Nintendo.
What was your favorite game?
My favorite game was Turtles in Time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got quite a few. There's a Death of Superman I got. That was a fun game. I got into the end of most of my games. There's a few games I haven't gotten to the end of. I got a Batman game I haven't got to the end of.
Did you ever play Final Fantasy?
No. It's usually
Did you ever get
superhero
into,
ones.
like, role-playing games, just superhero?
Just superheroes. No, I do have. What do I got for the Wii? I got a lot of superhero. I got a Ghostbuster game on the Wii. I got a Thor game. That's kind of cool to play. You get put up the Mjolnir and you can control lightning and stuff.
That's cool.
And game is a little wonky. I'm having a hard time getting through it. I got a couple Star Wars games. Dark. What is it called? Dark Some Rising? No. It's about it's not Luke Skywalker or anything, but it's got Darth Vader in it, and he gets a new apprentice or something.
Okay.
And you get to play with his character.
Do you get to wield a lightsaber with the Wii remote?
Yeah. You get to use the Force. You can move stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
I got stuck at this one point, and I couldn't get the thing to get it jumped across this entranceway or something. And so I've kind of put it away. Once I got frustrated with it, I just kind of put it away, not play it for a while. And I got a couple of Ninja Turtle games. I just went out and bought a whole bunch of stuff. I went to EB Games. You have EB Games in the States?
Now?
Yeah. Is that a?
We used to have EB Games back in early 2000s.
Okay.
And then they all got bought out by GameStop.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But you guys still have EB Games in Canada?
Yeah, we have them up here.
Do you have GameStop too?
No, never heard of GameStop.
Okay, so that must have been part of the merger deal. Is they sold all of the stores in the U.S.
Yeah.
And then EB Games kept all the stores outside of the U.S.
Yeah. It's kind of, we had Target here for a while. Target bought up all of our stores called Zellers. And then they were here for a few months and they closed up every store.
Target did?
Yeah, we don't have a Target anymore in Canada.
So what do you guys have instead? What's like your main department store kind of a deal?
We don't have anything. I don't think we have anything Canadian anymore.
Do you have Myers?
We have Walmart. We have
Walmart.
Bay.
How about Myers or Fred's or something like that?
Nope.
No?
No, we got a store called the Bay, which is a Canadian store, Hudson Bay company. They sell like expensive coats and other items,
Okay.
Yeah. It's almost like a Walmart, but no food in it.
Okay.
Except expensive.
There's a Canadian brand that makes outdoor clothing called Goose.
Yep.
Are those good clothes?
Yep. They're good clothes. Yeah.
Are they expensive?
I don't know. I haven't bought any.
Okay. I know it's a publicly traded company. I don't know if they made clothes or not.
Yeah. I've heard of them. I just haven't bought anything. They're probably sold at the Bay or something.
So you guys have the Bay, Goose, and Research in Motion / BlackBerry.
Well, BlackBerry's kind of going more into the software business now.
Software and cybersecurity. Yeah.
I don't think they're called RIM anymore.
No.
Or maybe they're called RIM, but they're not Research in Motion. They used to be called Research in Motion, but I think they're going BlackBerry. They bought a whole bunch of places around here, and now they have disappeared too.
Yeah.
So somebody else is taking over the company. The guy who started, I guess he kind of lost interest in running the business. It's probably a lot of stress to run some big like that,
Yeah.
And but then there's so many phones out there now, that's competing, because they were kind of the first ones that really came out that were really, you know, I used to see stuff, the BlackBerry on like the show called Castle.
Yeah.
And they'd be on the phone time going, "Hey, that looks like a BlackBerry. It looks like keys on it, you know." And I think I've seen a few other shows that people had Blackberries in them, you know. But BlackBerry's gone a different direction, which is sad because they've had a lot of phones they put out, and they used to have a thing called BlackBerry Messenger.
Yeah.
So if you were a BlackBerry, you had a BlackBerry, you could communicate. Like if you had a BlackBerry, I could communicate with you. I just get your PIN number, put it in, and you and I could communicate. And nobody else could break in and read those messages back and forth.
That's cool.
Because the security was only on the BlackBerry network.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work anymore because they've, I guess, disassembled the system and stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's all you saw on TV and commercials back in like 2006, 2007 was the BlackBerry phone. And everyone that was like a Wall Street guy or a business guy or a lawyer, they always had BlackBerries because of the security. And that's like, you know, they got maybe too comfortable with their technology or whatever. And then, you know, Apple iPhones popped up, and then the Google Android phones popped up. And then, like you said, they started getting into more security and cybersecurity and stuff, software.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Apples and stuff would have more features and stuff than the BlackBerry. BlackBerry didn't have as stuff as like for music and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Where the Apple,
they're much more multimedia based phones.
Yeah.
And I guess if you look at the market, you know, of all the people that are, you know, businessmen and you know, lawyers and investors or financial guys versus literally every kid everywhere and their parents, every kid everywhere and their parents is a much larger market. So if you sell them something that can play their music, take good pictures, and allow them to chat with their friends, you're probably going to sell more of those phones versus the ones that are specifically made for, you know, security and business professionals and stuff.
Yeah. And the problem with Apple is that they keep coming out with new models every year.
With just a small improvement.
Yeah. So
kind of like the Nintendo Game Boy.
Yeah. Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. Then the Game Boy SP, and then the DS and the DS Lite. It's like just a small improvement so they could sell you another 2 or 3 systems every single time they made a new release.
Yeah. Well, that's from Nintendo to the Super Nintendo, it was a big improvement in quality and stuff. And then I didn't get the Cube. I did buy the 64. So I have the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and the N64.
But no GameCube, huh?
No GameCube. And then I could jump to the Wii.
Oh man, you gotta fill out the set.
Yeah, I know.
We gotta get you a GameCube. Let's start a GoFundMe campaign to get William a GameCube.
Yeah, we should do that. Yeah. Let's get him a GameCube.
You gotta get Mario Kart.
Yeah.
And Super Smash Bros. And Mario Party. Those are the 3 games you have to get for GameCube.
Okay. I just looked at it. I just said, was that on a? Did they have that on a CD?
They're mini discs.
Mini discs. Okay. Yeah, I just looked at it and I go, yeah, just I didn't like the look of it or something, and I was quite happy with what I still had.
Yeah.
You know. But
and what sold you on the Wii? The Wii bowling?
What sold me on the Wii? And I think it was just the controllers. I was going like, whoa, look at this. It's like the Power Glove, because I have the Power Glove.
Still?
And the Power Glove sucked. Did you ever use the Power Glove?
I was never able to afford the Power Glove, and I was jealous of all my friends that had a Power Glove.
Oh, but then, you're jealous of me now.
I am. I'm jealous of you. I still don't have a Power Glove. We got to start a second GoFundMe to get me a Power Glove.
One, yeah. Get you a Power Glove, yeah?
You a GameCube, me a Power Glove.
Well, I still have the sensors for the Power Glove. Got to hook it up to the TV. I have a 32-inch TV in my bedroom. That's my Nintendos are hooked up to. I got to try and see if the sensors still work. Um,
Are they
but
finicky? Is that why why it's not fun? Or
yeah, it wasn't made for Nintendo. Never made the Power Glove. It was Mattel that made it,
I gotcha.
and they didn't have it that it could be programmable to the games. The games developers never kind of talked to Mattel to kind of integrate everything, and it didn't work really that well. You could do this and hit, like, if you were a Leonardo or something, and you had the foot coming after you, you could make his hand do that, or if you do something with your fingers, you could make them jump. But you had a keyboard on your arm here that you would program in codes. And there was a book. I don't have the book anymore. I lost the box and the instructions, but I still kept the glove and the sensor. But I have the boxes for all the Nintendos. I have everything that came with the Nintendos. People call me a hoarder, but
I call you a collector.
Yeah, it's a collector, you know. But my parents call me different. So,
So I have I was gonna say I have a claim to fame as a kid. Do you remember for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, they made a baseball bat that you could actually swing, and the guy on the screen would actually swing the bat too.
Oh yeah.
And it had a long cord, and it was called Batter Up. And I'm on the back. I'm on the back of that box.
Okay.
So once every blue moon, I'll see someone at a garage sale or something that has this bat, and I'll flip it around. I'm like, hey, guess who that is? Like a 10-year-old picture of me.
Cool, nice.
I never got paid for that. I got a free copy of the bat and a free game. But that's my claim to fame as a kid.
Do you, when you go and see your picture on the back of these boxes at these places, do you sign your name on the back?
I should, right?
Yeah, and they look at you like kind of strange, like, why are you marking up our box?
Like, you just devalued our product here by signing it. I always feel like that with comic books at conventions. I never push autographs on anybody or signing a book. But I'm like, do you want it signed? And most people are like, yeah, because it's brings back a memory of when they visited that convention and met a certain person. And then especially if you get popular, they can say, hey, I have an original signed copy of this book that this writer or artist did as one of his first books. But I always feel bad as signing it. I feel like I'm ruining the cover, ruining the comic or whatever by scribbling on it.
Well, I usually ask them if where do they want it signed, inside or outside. Usually I don't like signing it on the outside because it presses.
Cover.
Yeah, because I'm a heavy, when I'm write my signature, I'm pretty heavy, and it will go right through all the pages.
Oh, really?
The imprint,
Yeah.
or indent, and but I'll do them a little drawing of Max. I'll just do a head drawing of him. Because it'll take too long to draw him with his coat and his fedora and stuff like that. So I just draw him just his head, no arms, and then I'll just put my signature. I've got a fancy signature. I'll sign it instead of William. I'll sign it Bill, because in the book it goes by Bill Byrne.
Yeah.
And so I'll sign it Bill Byrne, and it has a stylized and kind of signature to that.
Do you
it's always fun to do that.
Do you have a copy of your signature on your desk that I can see?
No, I don't.
That makes me wonder, like, famous baseball players and football players, the ones that have fancy signatures, I wonder how long they had to practice their signature, because mine looks like chicken scratch.
Let me see.
Here, put it up a little closer. Oh, nice. That is fancy. That's a work of art right there.
Yeah.
When I sign a book, I feel like it's just chicken scratch, and then the next person looks at it, they're like, is that a signature, or was someone trying to draw a stick figure?
You know, they're going like this. Huh?
But see, that's the thing. People that are artistically inclined, like yourself, can add value to the book by, like you said, doing like a little hedge sketch or something like that of the character. And then when you have someone that has no artistic talent like myself, all I can do is sign the book or put like personalize the person's name. I can't draw anything.
Who says you're not artistic? You're right. That's an artistic form, you know.
But put a pen in my hand and tell me to draw something, I'm completely lost.
Yeah, but we can all draw, you know, just a little practice, you know.
It's like Stan Lee actually has a few Spider-Mans and stuff that he sketched through the years, and I guess those are like the really coveted Stan Lee autographs that are out there because he did so few of them.
Yeah, he didn't do them in any of my books. I got him signed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him up in Toronto, and
you got to meet him.
Yep, got to meet him. Nice guy. He signed my couple of my Marvel books. There was a Hulk I had. Well, I still have it. He signed my Spider-Man number 8 and Daredevil number 1. I bought them really cheap. They weren't in mint condition. They were just like very fine, very good, or something like that. You know,
you're talking the original ones from the 60s.
The original ones from the 60s.
Nice.
I actually ended up selling those. I was trying to. There was a guy that was working on the North Shield for me. One of the many guys that were working on the North Shield. I was trying to get some money for him, and I thought I could get quite a bit of money for Spider-Man number 8 and Daredevil number 1. And I paid, what was it, 1980, I think 81 or something, from that comic book store I told you about. I bought all the Captain Canucks from.
Yeah.
I bought it from him from $32. $32 is a lot of money back in, 1981.
Canadian?
You know?
32
Yeah,
Canadian.
Yeah, I think our dollar back then was the same as the American dollar back then.
Okay.
We were at par with you guys. And then we started to drop down to like 60 cents or 10 cents.
What was that all about?
I don't know what brought the dollar down. But what was it, about 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago, our dollar was back up to par with you guys again.
Yeah.
Which was great because I was going online and buying a whole bunch of stuff on eBay and stuff like that. I'm going like, ooh, look at that. It's like I don't have to pay a $10 more or $50 more to get that. You know? So I bought that for $32 Canadian, and I went into a comic book store in Kitchener, probably about 5-6 years later, or maybe 10 years later, and he sold it to me. He bought it off me for almost the same price I paid for it. I'm like, really? I thought even with Stan Lee's name on it, his signature would bring it up a little bit higher, at least $100, you know?
Yeah, now it's probably like $500 or $600.
Oh yeah, probably, yeah. I probably should have held it on until the movie came out, you know?
That's one thing I was going to say earlier about movies bringing like social and public awareness to comic book characters or whatever. And like you said, every single time they have a new Spider-Man movie or whatever character is featured seems to be the one that like everyone goes back and tries to find that specific first appearance or key issues of.
Yeah.
So Morbius right now, you're talking about the Jared Leto character, the Sony movie. That's a super, super popular book right now. Everyone's trying to find the first appearance of Morbius in Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, but he appeared in Spider-Man the Animated Series, Morbius. You know, there was a lot of first stuff that went on in that animated series of Spider-Man. That was the 90s version.
Yep.
By John Sipple Jr. He's a nice guy. I met him in San Diego. I had a table at San Diego.
Oh, that's cool.
That was interesting, guy. I got to meet Bulk from Power Rangers. Then I saw some woman hit some guy next to me. That was fun. All of a sudden, I hear this loud noise like this. And I looked, and this guy was going like this, smiling. And she was yelling at him, going, "You never asked the lady her age."
Oh, man.
It was a pretty young blonde girl, you know?
Oh, man.
And I'm thinking, you not a lady for hitting somebody, you know? For asking the age, you know?
That's back when you could hit people in public and not get,
Yeah.
thrown in jail for it.
Yeah, that was back in the 90s, I think. 94 or something like that I flew down. That place was huge. You ever been into San Diego convention?
So we were talking, I think, the other day about like big conventions to get into. But my top 3 are on my to-do list are San Diego, MegaCon in Orlando, and then New York Comic Con. So they're still on my list. Hopefully when I have a book worthy enough to take to one of those shows, they'll let me in.
You've been up to Fan Expo, haven't you?
I haven't. No, does Kevin Boyd run those shows?
Yep. Yes.
I follow him on Facebook, and he's always talking about the shows. And he handles all of the Canadian Fan Expo shows, right? Or
and I think
all
he
of the
handles
Fan Expos.
I think he handles them all.
Okay.
I think you have some in the States too.
Yeah.
Fan Expos.
Yep.
Yeah, he handles all those.
I think Boston is Fan Expo now, right?
Yep.
They bought several shows, and I thought Boston was one of them. And do they have a Fan Expo Vancouver?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. On our convention calendar, I always put a bunch of Fan Expo shows, and I know Kevin. I don't know what his official title is, if he's just the organizer or whatever. But I know Fan Expo is a big conglomerate or almost like a corporate structure.
Yeah, they've grown big over the years because I remember going there and they had that like the Holiday Inn and stuff like that. Now it's a big Toronto Convention Center.
Yeah.
And you can barely move. The only thing is I don't like is they've got other stuff in there like sports stuff, and I'm like going, the comic books seem to be being pushed
smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And the people, the crowds, there's more cosplayer people.
Yeah.
I've walked to that place and it's just like they've put the fire department has put a restriction on how many people are allowed in there. But the tickets are so expensive. I'm like $50. Last time I went, I heard it went up to $60 or $65 to get in for a day pass. And I'm like, I only come in on a Saturday, and I usually just come in. I go look for friends that I know that are still doing comic books. I'll seek them out in Artist Alley. I'll chat with them, and then I leave.
Yeah.
Because by the time you come in, you're out of money just to go buy anything,
It's tough as an independent creator to try to buy a table space at one of the bigger shows. Yeah. Like I think I did C2E2 one year, and I was right in publisher small press alley, and it was expensive to get in there, like $600 for a table or something. And they had so many pre-sold tickets of, I think, Stan Lee that year, and the signature pack was like, I don't know, a few hundred or several $100s or something like that. And by the time people walked in the door, they had already spent $800 on all the celebrity signatures, so they didn't have any money left to spend $5 on on an independent comic book.
Wow.
So
when I went and seen Stan Lee, it didn't cost anything to see him. All you had to do was stand up in a line and wait your turn to get up to him. You hand your books to him. You sign them. You talk to him. I give him. I think when we were talking last time, I don't know if I told you that I give him a copy of My Max Burgers.
Yeah.
And he was complaining about they were going to be too heavy for him to take on the plane. But I guess we should get going.
I was gonna say my phone's about to die. I didn't want to lose you without saying bye.
Yeah. And we've been on for an hour and 42 minutes. Wow.
So you
But
have
it's
the
been a-
link up for the path or for the stairway anthology?
I got the pathway right there. It's coming up. I got Amazon for Stairway. I had to take a bunch of stuff out of it because it was just a whole bunch of
Too much stuff.
And then I got the Facebook pathway mentioned there too on the ticker.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. I don't want to lose you. I got 1% battery. It might cut me off here soon.
1%. How come you didn't charge it up?
It was charged. It was fully charged. I got this Samsung. It just eats batteries now.
You're gonna have to get a webcam and a computer. All right. Take care, Joseph.